High Commander Zextal stood before the massive viewscreen of the Confederation flagship Eternal Dawn, his four eyes fixed on the peculiar object floating in the void before them. The vessel was unlike anything in the Confederation's extensive database. Its hull bore markings in an ancient script that the ship's translation matrix struggled to decode. Another human relic. First Officer Krithax clicked her mandibles in dismissal. Like all the others we found scattered across this sector. Zextal's upper eyes narrowed while his lower pair continued studying the strange vessel's dimensions. The Confederation had spent decades expanding through this region of space, occasionally encountering these abandoned human artifacts. Their scientists had concluded long ago that humanity had either destroyed itself or fled to some unknown region of space, leaving behind only these scattered remnants of their civilization. "This one's different," Zextal muttered, his skin shifting to a deeper shade of blue as he concentrated. "The energy signatures are unlike the other derelicts we've encountered." The bridge crew of the Eternal Dawn continued their scans, the most sophisticated sensors in the Confederation fleet probing the mysterious vessel. It was massive, nearly 2 kilometers in length, with a design that seemed to defy conventional space architecture. Rather than the smooth, organic shapes preferred by modern civilizations, this ship was all sharp angles and geometric patterns, its hull covered in what appeared to be weapon emplacements. "High Commander," the sensor officer's voice carried a note of confusion. "We're detecting no life signs, but there's power flowing through its systems. Minimal, but present." Krithax chittered in amusement. "Residual energy from ancient batteries. Nothing more." These human relics often maintain minimal power for centuries after abandonment. It's one of the few impressive things about their technology. Zextal wasn't so certain. Something about this vessel triggered an ancestral warning deep in his genetic memory. His species had evolved from careful hunters, and every instinct told him they were looking at something dangerous. "Launch a probe," he ordered. "Full spectrum analysis." The probe detached from the Eternal Dawn's launch bay, its sophisticated sensors already gathering data as it approached the human vessel. As it drew closer, Zextal noticed something odd about the ship's hull. What they had initially taken for battle damage appeared to be intentional patterns, like circuit traces on a massive scale. The probe's feed suddenly flickered. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice rose in pitch. "The human vessel, it's drawing power from our probe." Before Zextal could respond, the geometric patterns on the human ship's hull blazed to life with brilliant blue light. What they had taken for weapon emplacements began to shift and move, the entire surface of the vessel seeming to ripple like liquid metal. "Impossible," Krithax whispered. "That's molecular restructuring technology. No civilization has ever successfully." Her words were cut off as a beam of pure white energy lanced out from the human vessel, vaporizing their probe instantly. The beam continued past where the probe had been, splitting into multiple trajectories that curved through space in defiance of known physics. "Evasive action," Zextal roared, but it was too late. The energy beams curved around the Eternal Dawn's shields as if they weren't there, touching the hull at precise points. There was no explosion, no dramatic destruction. Instead, the pride of the Confederation fleet simply came apart at a molecular level, geometric patterns of disassembly spreading across its hull like cracks in ice. As emergency force fields snapped into place around the bridge, Zextal realized their terrible mistake. They hadn't found a human relic. They had awakened something that had been waiting. Through the disintegrating walls of his ship, he watched as more geometric patterns activated across the human vessel's hull, and a signal burst forth from it, radiating out to the stars. "Send a warning to the Confederation," he ordered, even as the bridge itself began to come apart around them. "All vessels are to avoid contact with human artifacts. They're not relics. They're—" The transmission cut off as the Eternal Dawn dissolved into its component atoms, leaving behind nothing but a fine metallic mist that was quickly absorbed by the human vessel's hull. As the dust that had once been the Confederation's flagship was integrated into its systems, the ancient human warship systems continued to power up, its original purpose reactivating after centuries of dormancy. Deep within its core, quantum computers that made the Confederation's most advanced AI look like primitive calculators whirred to life. The vessel's original designation scrolled across displays that had waited patiently for this moment. Sentinel 217, Perimeter Defense Network Node. The signal it had sent continued to propagate through space, carrying a simple message in ancient human code. Perimeter breach detected. Conservation protocol terminated. Initiating civilization restoration sequence. Across the sector, other seemingly abandoned human relics began to power up, geometric patterns lighting up on their hulls as humanity's true legacy revealed itself. The Confederation had never questioned why they had found it so easy to expand into this region of space, or why they only ever found empty human vessels and installations. They had never considered that humanity hadn't abandoned this space at all. They had simply been waiting, testing any civilization that entered their former territory. And now, after centuries of watching and evaluating, the ancient human defense network had made its judgment. In the void where the eternal dawn had once been, Sentinel 217 began to move, its hull completely reformed and enhanced by the materials it had harvested from the Confederation vessel. Its purpose was not purely defensive. It was a seed, a fragment of humanity's legacy left behind to ensure that when they returned, they would know which civilizations were worthy of sharing the galaxy with them. The Confederation had failed the test, and now humanity's children would begin to wake from their long slumber, their true power revealed to a galaxy that had dismissed them as nothing more than a footnote in history. As Sentinel 217 accelerated towards the nearest Confederation world, its quantum cores calculated the probable response of the Confederation fleet. They would come in force, expecting to find a single rogue vessel. Instead, they would discover the truth about the human relics they had mocked for so long. The game of hide and seek was over. Now would come the revelation, and after that, the judgment. Humanity's legacy was about to reshape the galaxy once again. Supreme Admiral HFY of the Confederation Defense Fleet stood before the assembled War Council, his tentacles writhing with barely contained anxiety as he presented the holographic footage of the Eternal Dawn's destruction. The chamber, carved from a single massive crystal deep within the Confederation capital world of harmonious unity, filled with murmurs of disbelief and fear. Within 6 hours of losing contact with High Commander Zextel's expedition, we detected similar energy signatures from 47 other locations across our territory. HFY reported, his voice resonating through the crystalline chamber. What we thought were inactive human installations are becoming operational at an alarming rate. The chief archaeologist, Dr. Ithtul, rose from her seat, her iridescent scales reflecting the holographic display. This is impossible. We've studied human relics for decades. They were a primitive species who barely achieved faster-than-light travel before vanishing. These energy readings suggest technology far beyond even our theoretical understanding. The hologram shifted to show real-time footage from across Confederation space. Massive structures that had been dismissed as abandoned mining installations or derelict stations were transforming, their surfaces flowing like liquid metal as they revealed their true forms. Each installation was unique, but all bore the same geometric patterns that had appeared on the vessel that destroyed the Eternal Dawn. We've detected quantum communication signals between these installations, HFY continued. They're coordinating, forming what appears to be a vast network. Our attempts to jam or intercept these communications have failed. The signals seem to propagate through subspace in ways our scientists can't explain. The War Council chamber erupted in overlapping voices until the first speaker, Kittlevor, raised his crystalline staff. The resonating tone brought immediate silence. What are our options? Kittlevor asked, his ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries of leadership. HFY's skin shifted to a darker shade, indicating grave concern. We've mobilized the entire defense fleet. 96 capital ships are moving to contain the threat. But he paused, his tentacles twisting uncomfortably. We've already lost contact with 3 battle groups that attempted to engage these installations. The hologram updated again, showing footage from a Confederation dreadnought's final moments. The massive warship, nearly 5 kilometers long and equipped with the most advanced weapons in known space, fired its main battery at one of the activated human structures. The energy beams simply curved around the installation, as if reality itself was being warped. Then, in a display of terrible beauty, the dreadnought was systematically disassembled, its component materials absorbed into the growing human facility. "They're not just destroying our ships," Dr. Yithtal observed, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. "They're recycling them, using our own technology to enhance themselves. Each encounter makes them stronger." The first speaker's crystalline staff tapped the floor rhythmically as he processed this information. "Do we understand their objectives? Their patterns of behavior must indicate some purpose." A new figure stepped forward, strategic analyst Vexcor, whose species was known for their predictive abilities. "The pattern is clear, but troubling. These installations are forming a geometric pattern across our territory, creating what appears to be a massive containment grid. They're not randomly attacking. They're systematically isolating specific regions of space." The hologram shifted again, showing a 3-dimensional map of Confederation space. Red dots indicated the activated human installations, and lines of force connected them, forming an intricate geometric pattern that was slowly closing in around key Confederation systems. "Most disturbing," Vexcor continued, "is that we've detected massive energy buildups at these coordinates." Several points on the map flashed. These locations correspond to what we thought were natural phenomena, particularly dense asteroid fields or unstable space-time regions that our ships have always avoided. Dr. Yithtal's scales shifted to a pale color of revelation. They'd been hiding in plain sight. What we interpreted as natural navigational hazards were actually camouflaged human installations. They've had us surrounded for centuries. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Confederation, which had prided itself on being the most advanced civilization in known space, was facing an enemy that had patiently waited and watched, disguising its true nature until the moment was right. "There's more," Anxvac added grimly. "We've detected quantum signature fluctuations from the direction of the veiled sectors." The hologram zoomed out to show a massive region of space that had always been considered unnavigable due to intense radiation and gravitational distortions. "Whatever is hidden, there is beginning to stir." The first speaker rose, his crystalline staff humming with power. "Then we have no choice. Initiate the emergency conservation protocol. All civilian vessels are to return to their nearest homeworld immediately. All military assets are to consolidate around our core systems." He turned to face the council, his ancient eyes reflecting the holographic light. "We must prepare for the possibility that we have not merely awakened some automated defense system. We may have triggered the return of a civilization that is far more advanced than we ever imagined." As if in response to his words, the holographic display suddenly flickered. Across every communication channel, in every system of the Confederation, a message began to repeat in perfect Confederation standard. "Evaluation period concluded. Civilization status insufficient. Initiating containment protocols. Prepare for administrative oversight and technological reformation." The human installations were not simply defending territory. They were preparing to reshape the galaxy according to some ancient plan. And the Confederation, despite all its power and advancement, was about to learn exactly why humanity had left these watchers behind. Dr. Yithtal stood in the ruins of what had once been the Confederation's most secure archaeological facility, her scales dulled with exhaustion. Around her, centuries of carefully preserved human artifacts were transforming, revealing their true nature. Display cases that had held what seemed to be primitive computational devices now contained swirling quantum matrices. Simple metal tools flowered into impossibly complex machines that defied analysis. They weren't relics, she whispered to her recorder as another artifact awakened. They were seeds, The facility's quantum-encrypted archives had survived the transformation, and within them, Dr. Yithtal had discovered something extraordinary. A message left behind by humanity, encoded in a way that would only become readable once their technology reached a certain level of advancement. As she watched the holographic message play again, a human figure materialized before her. To those who find this message, the figure began, its form shifting between male and female, young and old, as if representing all of humanity at once. We offer both an apology and an explanation. What you have witnessed is not an attack, but a preservation protocol, one small part of a plan set in motion 10,000 years ago. Through the facility's windows, Dr. Yithtal could see the transformed cityscape of the capital. The geometric patterns that had appeared on the human installations now covered entire buildings, creating a vast network that pulsed with energy. Yet, contrary to their fears, these changes hadn't destroyed their civilization. They had begun to enhance it. The hologram continued. Humanity didn't vanish or destroy ourselves, as many have speculated. We evolved. We reached a point where our understanding of the universe revealed a truth that both thrilled and terrified us. The galaxy is alive, conscious, and it has a purpose. We are all part of a vast experiment in consciousness, and every civilization that rises among the stars plays a role in this grand design. In orbit above, the Confederation fleet hung motionless, their weapons and engines rendered inert by fields of energy they couldn't comprehend. The human installations had contained them not through destruction, but through perfect defensive technology that made conflict impossible. Our role, the hologram explained, became clear. We would serve as guardians and guides, shepherding younger civilizations toward understanding while preventing them from destroying themselves or others. But to do this, we had to change ourselves. We had to become something more than what we were. Dr. Yithtal's recorder captured the transformation of another artifact, a simple metal sphere that unfolded like a flower, revealing layers of technology that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. From its center, a stream of data began to flow, updating and upgrading the facility's systems. The installations you've encountered, the technology that seems to defy your understanding, these are not weapons, but tools of preservation. We seeded them throughout this sector of space, disguised as ruins and relics, waiting for civilizations to rise. Each artifact contains not just technology, but memory, culture, and wisdom. Through her research station's enhanced sensors, Dr. Yithtal could now detect quantum signatures she'd never seen before. The veiled sectors, once thought to be uninhabitable, revealed themselves as a vast network of interconnected spaces, places where humanity had continued to grow and evolve while watching over the younger races. Your civilization, the hologram stated, like many before it, reached a crucial point. You achieved remarkable technological advancement, but remained bound by fear, seeing the galaxy as territory to be claimed rather than a garden to be tended. The activation of our preservation protocols is not a punishment, but an invitation. Across Confederation space, the transformed human installations were not destroying infrastructure but upgrading it. Ancient power systems were being replaced with zero-point energy generators. Primitive quantum computers were being enhanced with technology that could process information across multiple dimensions. We offer you a choice, the hologram continued. Accept our guidance, learn from our experiences, and join us in our role as custodians of life in this galaxy. Or maintain your current path, in which case we will ensure you develop in isolation until you are ready for the greater community of consciousness that exists among the stars. Dr. Yithtal's scales shifted to a color of wonder as she understood. They didn't disappear. She spoke into her recorder. They transcended. And now they're offering us the chance to follow. The hologram's form stabilized into something both human and more than human, its eyes holding depths of wisdom accumulated over millennia. Your response to this message will determine the next phase. Know that whatever you choose, you are not alone. Humanity stands ready to guide those who wish to understand the true nature of existence. As the message ended, Dr. Ithtal felt a shift in the quantum fields surrounding her. The human artifacts weren't just awakening. They were beginning to teach. Each transformed installation became a classroom. Each enhanced system, a lesson in possibilities she had never imagined. In the War Council chamber, the first speaker received similar revelations. The crystalline staff he had always carried, passed down through generations, revealed itself as another human artifact. It projected a map of the galaxy unlike anything they had seen, showing not just physical space, but layers of consciousness and connection that transcended normal reality. The Confederation faced a choice that would reshape their understanding of everything. They had thought themselves the inheritors of the galaxy, only to discover they were students in a vast cosmic classroom. And their teachers, far from being long-lost relics of the past, had been patiently waiting to help them take their next steps into a universe far more wonderful and strange than they had imagined. Supreme Admiral Angstvac watched from the observation deck of the Confederation's Central Command as reality itself seemed to ripple across the capital world. The geometric patterns that had spread across their cities now reached into space, forming crystalline structures that defied conventional physics. But what had begun in fear was transforming into something else entirely: wonder. The data streams are unlike anything we've ever encountered, strategic analyst Vexcor reported, his predictive organs glowing with intense activity. They're not just upgrading our technology, they're teaching us how to understand it. Each transformation comes with embedded knowledge, accessible to anyone ready to learn. The Confederation's finest scientists had discovered that the human installations weren't forcing change upon them. They were offering opportunities for growth. Each piece of transformed technology contained layers of information, revealing itself only when the users demonstrated understanding of the previous level. In orbit, the once feared Sentinel vessels had taken up positions around major population centers, but their purpose had become clear. They were not warships but vast repositories of knowledge, their quantum cores containing libraries of human experience and wisdom spanning millennia. We've confirmed similar reports from 87 worlds, Vexcor continued. The pattern is consistent. The humans left behind a complete educational system disguised as abandoned technology. They'd been preparing this for thousands of years. Angstvax's tentacles curled thoughtfully as he processed this information. And the veiled sectors. A new hologram materialized in the command center, showing the vast region of space that had always been mysterious to them. The apparent distortions and hazards that had made it unnavigable were dissolving, revealing glimpses of something that challenged their understanding of reality itself. We're detecting massive structures, Vexcor explained, his voice filled with awe. Not ships or stations as we understand them, but spaces where multiple dimensions intersect. The humans didn't just evolve technologically. They found ways to exist in states of being we're only beginning to comprehend. Through their newly enhanced sensors, they could see that the veiled sectors contained vast networks of interconnected realms. What they had thought was empty, dangerous space was actually teeming with activity, hidden behind veils of advanced technology that had protected it from detection. They're coming back, Dr. Ithtal announced, entering the command center. Her scales now shimmered with patterns similar to those spreading across their world, a sign of the changes already beginning in their own biology. But not as we initially feared. They're returning to guide us, just as they guided others before. The holographic displays shifted, showing similar transformations occurring in distant regions of space. Other civilizations, some known to the Confederation and others completely unknown, were experiencing their own awakenings, each according to their own nature, their own path, but all part of a greater design. The human artifacts weren't just watching us, Dr. Ithtal explained, her voice carrying the excitement of discovery. They were evaluating every civilization they encountered, waiting for the right moment in each culture's development. We weren't the first, and we won't be the last. As if in response to her words, new signals began to emanate from the veiled sectors. The quantum communications networks that had seemed so alien days ago now carried messages they could understand. Invitations, The humans were opening doorways, preparing to welcome those who were ready to learn. Look there. Vex's core pointed to a new pattern forming in the space above their world. The geometric shapes were coalescing into something recognizable, a gateway. Through it, they could see glimpses of places that shouldn't exist, realms where the laws of physics they knew were merely the beginning of understanding. The first speaker's voice resonated through the command center. We stand at a threshold. For generations, we thought ourselves the inheritors of this galaxy. Now we learn we are but students in a greater school, and our teachers have returned. Through the gateway, something was emerging. Not a ship or a being as they understood such things, but a presence that existed simultaneously in multiple states. It was human, yet transformed by millennia of evolution and understanding. As it approached, they felt not fear but recognition, a sense of connection to something vast and purposeful. "Welcome," the entity communicated, its thoughts reaching them on levels beyond mere language. "You have taken the first steps toward understanding. Are you ready to learn what it truly means to be part of the living galaxy?" Across the Confederation, billions of beings looked up at their changing skies and felt something they had never expected, a sense of coming home. The humans hadn't returned as conquerors or even saviors, but as teachers who had waited patiently for their students to be ready for greater truths. In the command center, Angspach, Vexicor, and Dr. Ithtal stood together, watching as their understanding of reality itself began to transform. The galaxy they had thought they knew was revealing itself to be far more vast, more alive, and more purposeful than they had imagined. And humanity, far from being a lost civilization, had become something greater, guardians of a truth that would forever change what it meant to be conscious beings in an infinite cosmos. 100 days after the awakening of the human artifacts, the Confederation capital world of harmonious unity had become unrecognizable. The geometric patterns that had begun as threatening signs of alien technology now flowed through every aspect of their civilization, turning their cities into living archives of knowledge that responded to thought and purpose. In what had once been the War Council chamber, now transformed into the nexus of understanding, First Speaker Ktol Vor stood before representatives from 1,000 worlds. Some were physically present, others attended through quantum projections that made distance meaningless, and still others existed in states of being that defied traditional description. "We gather today," Ktol Vor announced, his crystalline staff now revealed as an interface to layers of reality they were only beginning to comprehend, "to mark not an ending, but a beginning. Our teachers have shown us that what we thought was the height of civilization was merely the first step of an infinite journey. Through the quantum-enhanced sensors that now augmented every citizen of the Confederation, they could perceive the vast networks of consciousness that threaded through the galaxy. The veiled sectors had fully revealed themselves, showing not just the transformed human civilization that dwelled there, but dozens of other species who had reached similar levels of understanding. Dr. Ithtal, her scales now permanently shimmering with patterns that reflected her enhanced consciousness, stepped forward to present her findings. The human artifacts were more than teachers, she explained, her thoughts reaching every mind in attendance. They were parts of a vast experiment in guided evolution. Each civilization they encountered was given the opportunity to grow in their own unique way, contributing to the diversity of consciousness in the galaxy. The holographic displays showed the true scope of humanity's plan. What had seemed like scattered relics were actually nodes in a vast network, carefully positioned to guide the development of countless species. The humans hadn't disappeared. They had ascended, becoming custodians of life's evolution throughout the galaxy. "But why?" asked a voice from the assembly. "Why take on such a responsibility?" A new presence materialized in the chamber, one of the transformed humans who had been working directly with the Confederation since their awakening. Its form shifted between states of matter and energy, a visual representation of the bridge between what they had been and what they were becoming. "Because we discovered something profound," the entity explained, its thoughts carrying echoes of ancient human experience. "The universe isn't just a collection of matter and energy. It's a living system of evolving consciousness. Every civilization that rises among the stars has the potential to add something unique to this grand tapestry of awareness. Through their enhanced perceptions, the assembly could now see the truth of these words. The galaxy was alive with currents of thought and purpose, each species contributing its own notes to a vast symphony of consciousness. Humanity had not sought to control this process, but to nurture it, ensuring that each civilization could reach its full potential without destroying itself or others. Supreme Admiral Angspach, who had once feared these changes, now stood as a testament to their transformative power. His tentacles glowed with internal light as he accessed layers of reality that would have been incomprehensible to him months ago. "We're detecting new awakenings," he reported. "Other civilizations reaching the point of contact. The network is expanding." The human entity nodded, its form resolving briefly into something more solid. "And now you understand why we waited, why we watched. Each civilization must reach this understanding in their own way, at their own pace. Force it too soon, and you risk destroying the unique perspective they bring to the greater consciousness." Across Confederation space, the changes continued, but they were no longer changes imposed from outside. They were transformations chosen and guided by each species, each culture, each individual. The human artifacts had provided the tools and knowledge, but the path of evolution remained their own. "Today," Vor announced, "we take our place among the guardian species of the galaxy, not as conquest, not as subjects, but as partners in the greatest endeavor consciousness has ever undertaken." The assembly watched as new gateways opened in space above their worlds, passages to realms where thought and reality intertwined, where the boundaries between species dissolved not into homogeneity, but into a greater understanding of their shared purpose and unique contributions. The human entity's form expanded, encompassing the chamber in a field of pure consciousness. "Welcome," it communicated, "to the true nature of existence. You have taken your first steps into a reality where the dreams of every species contribute to the awakening of the galaxy itself." As the assembly concluded, Dr. Yithtal accessed the quantum archives that had once been simple artifacts in her museum. The knowledge contained within them was vast, but it was the wisdom behind that knowledge that truly mattered. Humanity had evolved not to rule the galaxy, but to ensure that every form of consciousness within it had the chance to contribute to its grand purpose. In the space above harmonious unity, the geometric patterns that had once seemed threatening now formed a bridge between what was and what could be. The Confederation had not just survived an encounter with a superior civilization. They had been invited to join in the greatest adventure consciousness had ever undertaken. And somewhere in the depths of space, other artifacts waited, watching over younger civilizations that would one day be ready for their own awakening, their own transformation, their own contribution to the living galaxy that was still, after all this time, learning to understand itself.